Hi, and welcome to a special Christmas edition of Texas Tracks and Taps. I'm Graham.
Merry Christmas. I'm John.
Merry Christmas. I'm Coy.
On today's Christmas episode, we are going to discuss some of our favorite Christmas music, some of our memories surrounding those songs, and just why we love those songs and albums, and also feature some wonderful Christmas beers, a couple that are Texas, and a few that are not as well. So, gonna branch out a little bit on this episode. So, kick it to Coy, and he's going to tell you what he's drinking, and then we'll go around and share what the rest of us are drinking.
Yes, sir. I have Shiner Holiday Cheer. Shiner is one of my first real beers that I got into, especially, being so readily available here in Texas. When they came out with that variant seasonal, the first time I had it, I just thought it was the best thing. Got that apricot, pecan just notes going with it. Really gets me in the holiday spirit, and just kind of hadn't had it in a few years and got back into it this year in a big way. So that's what I went with for round one.
Round one.
Yeah, and I went out of state for round one. I actually was driving around the west part of the United States with a couple buddies, and I stumbled upon this city that I'd never heard of called Breckenridge. And so when I went into the store and I saw Breckenridge Brewery has a Christmas ale, I was like, man, I got to try it. It's like one of my favorite places I've ever spent a few nights in. So it's fantastic. But yeah, it's a really good Christmas ale. It's malty, full bodied winter warmer. So it's pretty good. I'm already, I think we're only about 1 minute in, and I'm already more than halfway through my bottle.
It's good stuff. I've got St. Arnold Christmas Ale. Hard to get it to actually focus on that, but really good stuff from Houston Brewery. St. Arnold, who is huge these days, but they're actually, I was wondering when I picked it up, one of my thoughts was, oh no, not that it has to be, but I don't know if they're still independent. But I looked it up because a lot of the larger, Texas breweries have been bought out in the last, decade or so, but St. Arnold is still independent. So that's cool. But yeah, it's a really good Christmas ale. Just got all those things, all those profiles of what a good Christmas ale should have, some spice and clove and kind of those things that are always tasty around this time of year that get you in the spirit. So cheers. I'm about halfway done already too, John. So don't.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And everybody's probably wondering like why we're dressed so silly for Christmas and what's on our shirts. So Coy, you want to kind of show what you've got, and then I'll show what I've got on my shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. The tradition of dressing silly for Christmas started about 2,000 years ago with swaddling clothes. But here I've got Turning Point Brewery. I don't even remember when I got this, but I'm glad I have it. And I'm glad I found it moments before we started recording. But yeah, great local.
That's really cool. Yeah.
brewery. Yeah. Threw it on Dallas Stars Santa hat as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm repping New York today. Everybody's looking at my fake Kango hat and going, "Why are you wearing that stupid thing and a gold chain?" But it's to represent Run DMC, one of my favorite rap bands out there. They were my gateway drug into rap. So I found this sweater a few years ago. It's one of my favorites. So
That's awesome. They might come up again later in this episode.
ooh, very nice.
That's called teasing forward.
Very nice.
I don't have anything other than a hat that lights up. Well, if I can find the button. Where'd it go?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Stand back.
It
I
flashes.
think I need a fan in mine because this thing's hot as can be.
I know. Same. This
getting
may
lit.
come off later, especially after the second beer. But yeah, I need some ugly Christmas sweaters. I don't have any. So that's if y'all need, gift ideas. There you go. So yeah, not last episode, but the episode before last, John, you gave us an assignment. You want to kind of cover that a little bit, and then we can respond.
Yeah, so blues has been something that has always been one of my favorite types of music. I think living in the Southeast for so long, it was kind of, part of the culture down and living in Florida and Georgia. And looking at the blues that came out of Texas, it just been, amazing through the years. And one of the artists that I've been a big fan of for decades has been Lightning Hopkins. So that was the assignment that I gave to you guys. just as a refresh, he's originally from Centerville, Texas, but spent majority of his life down in Houston, kind of playing clubs and really didn't spread out, far from Texas. He pretty much played around Texas, occasionally out in California in the Midwest. But yeah, I knew that you guys hadn't really listened to his music, and I'm really kind of curious, what was it like exploring some of the old blues and listening to some of the old blues music?
I'll say that I really enjoyed the assignment. It's always fun for me to dig into stuff that, I haven't been exposed to heavily. And this was definitely one of those artists. And yeah, man, I mean, what I love about Lightning is the style that he does. It's more of a country blues, I guess you would say, just kind of a really raw, kind of gritty, stripped down, style for the most part. And that's really cool. Some of the songs that I checked out that, stood out to me that I really liked were Mojo Hand was awesome. Woke Up This Morning. I loved that tune. Automobile Blues, really fantastic song and really relatable at times when you're having car trouble. But yeah, but then there were a couple other songs too, though, that kind of went away from that more kind of stripped down sound. There were some songs with full bands that I also really enjoyed. Shaggy Dog was one of those, as well as there was another one. I can't remember now, but yeah, he could go both ways for me as far as, from the stripped down stuff to the kind of more fuller kind of full band sound. And yeah, I enjoyed them both, both versions of the songs. And yeah, just really, really glad I found a new artist. So thank you, John. Appreciate you introducing me to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I checked out several of those same songs. One other one is Baby Please Don't Go. And I think that song's like from the 40s. And that one, probably of all the ones I heard, really seemed to embody like his vocal style and his vocal tone and also his guitar. And just there were multiple times just listening to several of the songs that I just thought, man, he sounds so sad and his guitar sounds so sad that like it really is like this has to be like the stuff that inspired so many more blues artists. And in fact, one of my first thoughts was like, I wonder if, he ran around with Blind Lemon Jefferson. Cause I'll be honest, my like blues is my blind spot. I'm not as well versed in blues as other things. But I do like, and I've heard a little bit here and there. And so when I kind of hopped on, tried to research him a little bit, and he met Blind Lemon Jefferson when he was 8 years old at a church picnic. And that is like the most Texas blues thing I could think you could do. And so I was like, okay, well, that explains. So that's like, I think that's what he got kickstarted into music at a very early age and proficient. And then, but you hear how he influences those later generations of Texas blues artists like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And yeah, it was really cool to really go to the roots of a whole genre of music and that inspired other genres of music that we still enjoy today. I think the only other thing that I thought was interesting is that he also has a song called Back to New Orleans, which I think is the same song as Baby Please Don't Go, but like just a different arrangement on it, but definitely a different recording. And I was just thinking like, man, it's probably people found his music or just like called it by two different names, even though it's the same song. But I think it just goes to show his legacy of how widespread he influenced people. Another fun fact, the REM song off the Document album, Lightning Hopkins, is not about him, but is named after him because the guitar player had an album of his out, and I guess they just saw that name and thought, let's write a song called Lightning Hopkins.
Yeah, cool name.
But I was like, oh, wow, they wrote a song about him. And I'm like, nope, they just called their song. And so I like looked into like, why did they call it that? And it's like, yeah, they had an album laying around of his. So yeah, even influencing REM just with his name alone.
Yeah, you both mentioned some of my favorites. So, because I wrote down like some of the ones that I remember listening to that I really dug were, Automobile Blues, that was on my list, and Baby Please Don't Go, that was on my list. But I think it's kind of funny how a lot of his songs are about women nagging him or being nagging. And it's probably just, that old school mentality of, the 30s and the 40s and, how they grew up. But a couple of my faves that I really enjoy, if you happen to, be looking for some others, Short Haired Woman, Annie's Boogie, Mojo Hand, and it's one of his first songs called Katie May. It's like really old song, all real good. But yeah, he definitely had an influence. I was actually reading an interview with Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and he was talking about, his playing style, Lightning Hopkins' playing style, and how unique it was for his time, and how he was able to, basically make the guitar sound like, bass and drum and, just play the guitar, but it sounds like multiple instruments. I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and maybe it'll, let you branch out into some more blues music that you haven't listened to in the past, but I'm glad you guys dug them. That's great.
Yeah, I know it definitely will for me. I enjoyed it. So now we're going to talk about Christmas music.
Yes.
We love it. We love Christmas music, right, guys?
Love it. Got
At
lots
least
of
once
it.
a year.
Yeah. So I'm going to kick it to Coy and let him kind of discuss some of his favorites of the holiday season.
Yeah, I think we were, throwing around some show ideas and we're like, hey, Christmas is coming up. Well, in this timeline of us recording things, depending on when you're listening, it may not be coming up. But, we're just kind of throwing out some ideas. If we wanted to try to release something before Christmas, about Christmas, we had to really jump on it. And normally, I wouldn't recommend jumping the shark and doing a Christmas episode this early in the run of a career, but we're doing it. We're going for it because there are some great Christmas songs out there and I think everyone, at least this time of year, gets into the spirit. So if you're not listening near Christmas, skip this episode and just wait till Christmas comes around and then come back and let's do it. Or if you like Christmas all the time, like some of the people I know in my family, you can go ahead and listen to it. But yeah, so we decided to keep it Texas. We would try to find kind of a list of what I call Texmas music. So Texas Christmas, artists from Texas, songs about Texas and Christmas, because you can have those at the same time. But then we'd also kind of go into our all-time Christmas favorites as well. Don't have to be from Texas. Because I'll admit I don't have as many Texas Christmas songs that, I'm a big fan of as the rest of the world, but there are quite a few good ones out there. I'll kick it off with the one that I think is really quintessentially Texas, although there are a few on this list that I have. But George Strait has When It's Christmas Time in Texas. And I think just rhyming snow with San Antonio, if you can ever do that in a song, then you've pretty much, made it. But no, King George, he's a spokesman for Texas. I put him up there with Willie, and which is also on my list. But this song it makes me feel like it's Texas country and it's a Christmas song. And of all the ones I was kind of listening to preparing for this episode, that was the one that kind of stuck out to me. I do remember hearing this song when I was a kid growing up here, and especially around this time of year. And it brings back a lot of good Texas Christmas memories.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that particular song. I was listening to that album, The Merry Christmas Straight to You, in preparation for the episode, and honestly not real familiar with that record myself, but just trying to find, some Texas stuff, material, Christmas song. Picked that one out because, I knew it would be a popular one with a lot of people. But that particular song did stand out to me as well. I think it's one of the better ones on. I mean, there's some, classics on there, like traditional Christmas songs that he does, and then some originals. But of the originals, I think that's definitely the best one on the album. And to me, I love it because it has that more of that Texas swing kind of vibe to it, which is more like you were saying. I think makes it more distinctive, Texas. So. Yeah, it's a good one for sure.
I do have that entire album. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. How many Christmas albums you have? Do you have that number or no?
Let's just say I started playing Christmas music before Thanksgiving and play it nonstop through New Year's, and I just barely get through them all.
Really?
A different one. No repeats, right?
No, I play the albums nonstop. So I've got a lot, but that's one of I was going to talk about it. Like in my collecting, I've got subgenres, and one of them that I really enjoy is Christmas, mainly because you can find them cheap. Like you can walk into thrift stores and find them for $1. So yeah, I've got a pretty hardy collection, but the weirder, the better for me. So I've got some real oddities out there. But Coy, what else? What are some of the other songs that you really are into?
So we'll keep it in that kind of Texas swing vein. If you want to go back to some of the original artists that were making that popular, or just, and it also had reach outside of Texas, I have Gene Autry on here as well. He's got lots of great Christmas albums. It'd be hard to pick one. So I just picked, well, I mean, like you can't go wrong with his renditions of like Rudolph and Frosty and Santa Claus. Here Comes Santa Claus. Like you can just, it's classic. It does sound a little Texas and a little country, but I think anybody, there it is. I think anybody anywhere would enjoy, listening to those Christmas songs. But I'm going with Merry Texas Christmas You All, which I believe is on that album, John, that you just showed. But that is, it's got Texas in the title and is a great just Texas Christmas track, and from a great Texas artist. That's been covered by a lot of artists, especially Texas artists. So like Asleep at the Wheel has done that one. Michael Martin Murphy. Yeah. He's done that one. Ernest Tubb, another big Texas swing guy, has done that one. So I haven't heard a bad version of that song. It's a really great song. If you haven't heard it, I'd definitely check it out if you want to really feel like you are having a Texas Christmas. That one and George Strait, that's all you need. And some Shiner Cheer. And
So not on that album. Believe
it's
it or
not
not.
on that album. Okay.
It is not, but you just stole my thunder of the surprise that I had for you.
That's why we should rehearse these shows ahead of time.
So when I found out that I was moving, I was living in Seattle, and I found out that we were having to move to Texas. I wasn't, believe it or not, like totally excited.
What?
Exactly.
Didn't get here as fast as you could.
So I went to a thrift store that day in Seattle, and I just went digging through the records, and I found this little ditty
That's
that
the
you
album
just mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, it's a sign. Like I've never seen this before in my life, and I still haven't seen it. It was the one and only time, but I was like,
Awesome.
it's a signal that I should move to Texas. And this is from 1952. So like, what is that? Like 70, it's over 70 years old, and it's in great shape, and it's a fun song. Like I'd never heard it.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty impressed that you know about it, because I had
The-
never heard of it. So
I'm impressed that was in Seattle.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But yeah, it's actually got that song, and I think The Night Before Christmas in Texas on the other side. So
That's
pretty,
awesome.
pretty cool little find, and 99 cents. So it was pretty good
Man.
deal.
You can't go without mentioning this album as a Texas Christmas album, and John has already spoken about it in previous episodes. But Willie Nelson, Pretty
Yep.
Paper.
Yes.
I mean, that's probably
Beautiful.
the top of the
Mhm.
mountain as far as Texas Christmas albums in my mind. Many classics on there that you just remember hearing growing up as a kid, especially if you lived in Texas. So yeah, that's a good one. What's y'all's experience with that album and those songs?
I mean, Pretty Paper is just a beautiful song. Like it's well written. It's, vocals are great on the song. Like it's fantastic. And his entire Christmas album, and I didn't pull that for this show, but it's one of my favorites in my collection. Like out of the hundreds of Christmas albums I've got, like it's stellar. Like I'll pull it aside and play it a couple times if I can, but yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I haven't heard a Willie Nelson song I didn't like, and I haven't heard him do a Christmas song that I didn't like his version of it in some way. And yeah, I kind of approached this a little differently. Instead of albums, I was making like a mixtape and just kind of pulling songs from all over. Like, this is just my kind of compilation. But Pretty Paper was literally coming up next on my list as well. But yeah, that whole album, you can spin that all day. But that song in particular is great. And then he threads through my whole list, because I've got, I'll just go to my next one. A Willie Nice Christmas, Casey Musgraves and Willie Nelson duet. That is a really fun song and more of a newer song. Her Christmas album is also really good. And I have her on here twice because she also has a duet with Leon Bridges, which is President Without a Bow. That's also from that album. And that's a great duet from two of like kind of Texas artists that are doing their thing right now and really relevant right now and still have a lot of career ahead of them, that I included them on this Texas compilation album that I was making.
So there's another album
There it
that
is.
I
Nice.
was aware of. I won't say personally one of my favorites. Again, like growing up, wasn't super into country music, but this was a name that of a guy that I knew that a lot of people were really into, especially back in the 90s. And I came across his Christmas album, Jerry Jeff Walker. Are you for the
Oh, yeah.
Christmas Gonzo style? To me, I think there's probably a lot of people out there that, know that album and probably relate to it a lot. So I wanted to mention it, even though it wasn't something personally impactful for me.
That's one I don't have.
Oh, you need to check it out.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good. I mean, pretty kind of straightforward, country Christmas classics, and he just does his rendition, but it's good. And it's called Christmas Gonzo style. So, I mean, can't be bad, right? I don't know where the Gonzo comes from as far as that goes. There's a little story behind it. I should have looked into it. But yeah. John, do you have any more input on Texas Christmas music?
Well, I've got some, I wouldn't call them odd, but I know Coy is a fan, but Miss Kelly Clarkson, she's actually put out 2 Christmas albums.
Yes, I have the other one on my list.
Yeah, I don't have her first one. This is the second one, and the first one has Under the Tree, which is the real popular song. But, she's a local favorite and beautiful voice. She does some really good renditions of, on this one, she's got Santa Baby, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. So, and there's some originals on here as well. But I think that's a great one. Let's just get this one out of the way because the only redeeming quality on this is that Herschel Walker's on it, and he's a Georgia Bulldog. So I found the 1986 Dallas Cowboys Christmas album one day and it was unopened. So I was the first person to actually play this record. And then, boy, I pulled this one because we went to Rag and Bones Records and the owner of the store was telling us about a cassette from Freddie Fender that was really collectible. Like it was, I guess, really expensive. I don't remember how much it was, Graham, but
yeah, it was up there, $700, something like that.
But this was one of the albums that I found that I wouldn't say it's highly collectible, but it's just not one of the most common ones. But it's Christmas Time in the Valley by Freddie Fender, part of the Texas Tornadoes, if you're familiar with them. And so it's a pretty short album, just got 8 tracks on it, but he's got a couple tracks in English and a couple in Spanish on here, but pretty cool little find I had.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got for Texas.
Very cool.
Well, I was going to ask, do you have, because I know you're a big George Jones fan, do you have the album that Mr. and Mrs. Claus is on that he sings with Tammy? Because that's a great track.
Don't think I do have that.
Okay. Your assignment is to check out that song if you haven't heard it before, especially being a George and Tammy fan. I am. Mr. and Mrs. Claus. It's a really fun song. I didn't actually even know that existed until researching some Texas Christmas songs. So literally just heard it recently and it was good enough to make the list. I just had one more. It's a tie-in with Willie again, but Don Henley and the Eagles with Please Come Home for Christmas. I really like that song quite a bit as far as Christmas songs go. And Willie has a version as well that's pretty darn good too. But yeah, that's pretty, I think we touched on, we had a lot of overlap again, which is funny because we don't plan these ahead of time. Oh, Graham, you got some more?
No, I've got a couple more. I'd be remiss and in trouble with my wife if I don't mention the Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers album called Once Upon a Christmas. That's one of her favorites.
Very good. Yep.
It's great. And Kenny's a Texan from Houston.
Yep.
Dolly is not, however, but so we could still claim it as a Texas album, I think. But yeah, it's got a lot of, it's got Hard Candy Christmas, probably the most, well-known and popular song off of there. And then, a couple of, traditional ones. But my personal favorite on it, I don't know if you're familiar with this song, but it's track 4 and it's Christmas Without You. To me, that one stands out as the best original song on there. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, so I was thinking, I've known for a while that the Chicks, who I mentioned before, Dixie Chicks, they don't have a Christmas album, which I think is a shame. I think they should. I think it would be great. But they do have a handful of Christmas songs. However, my favorite one of their Christmas songs is an oldie. It's from like 1991, and it's pre Natalie Maines and all that. And it's called Christmas Swing. And again, just going back to that whole Western swing, Texas swing style. It's got, the fiddle, and it's got banjo, and it's got, all these great elements of that style of music. And, it's lacking, like I said, Natalie Maines, but the gal, I forget her name, who sang before, she does a great job on it as well. And very different voice. It doesn't sound like, what we know the Chicks to sound like, but it's an excellent tune. And I think, it should be on y'all's holiday playlist if it's not already.
Nice.
I never knew they had some Christmas tracks.
Yeah.
So
Just
I'll
just a
definitely have to pull those
handful.
up. But Graham, I hate you because now the rest of the show, I'm going to hear Islands in the stream.
You gonna hear
for the
what?
rest of the show. So
You say that like it's a bad thing.
that's Kenny and Dolly.
Which one?
Islands in the stream.
Oh, yeah.
That is what we are.
Written by Barry Gibb, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's in my head now that you mentioned the two of them because that's what I associate them with.
That's an amazing song. Not Christmas, but great.
No.
Great all the other months of the year. All right, I think that about wraps it up for the Texas music side of things. And we're going to talk about music from outside of Texas. But first, we need, I think, to refresh our beverages, get our round 2 going, maybe drink something outside of Texas that's Christmassy. But John, you already went outside of Texas. I've got another Shiner Cheer here. I'll just pass it over to you.
Oh, why, thank you, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. You're welcome, man. So you're having a Shiner Cheer, I see. I'm actually staying in Texas, but it's got not international because this is a territory of the US, but it's got a Caribbean flair. It's Martin House out of Fort Worth, Texas. They have a Coquito ale. If you don't know, like I didn't know what this was. This is like basically the Puerto Rican holiday drink, like our eggnog would be, but it's with coconut milk is kind of one of the main ingredients in it. So this is an ale with coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and lactose. After I got these, randomly, business partner of my wife's was like, hey, I've made some, she's from Puerto Rico. She's like, I made some Coquito. You want some? And we were like, we just learned that this is a thing. So we got kind of a big old jug of it. And I got to try the actual rum, coconutty, holiday spiced, Christmassy Puerto Rico drink. And it's pretty good if you can get your hands on some Coquito. In the meantime, though, you can find this Martin House's version of a beer that's based off of it. So that's what I'm going with for round 2.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
So I've got for my round 2 one of my all-time favorite Christmas beers, and it is made nowhere near Texas. It's made in Belgium, and it is St. Bernardus Christmas Ale. Oh, I can't get my camera to actually focus on that. But anyway, was real excited though because this is the first time I've ever seen it in cans. They sell it in 4-pack cans, which I'd never seen before. And some purists might scoff at that because it's not in glass, but I love it because it means I don't necessarily have to drink a whole 750 milliliter bomber by myself, especially when I'm having a couple beers like I am right now. So it's great. So yeah, and it was only like $4 more for a 4-pack than the bomber. So
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know they had it in cans either. That's great.
It's delicious. If you haven't tried it, definitely should. One of my favorites.
Well, cheers
that's
to
good.
more Christmas music talk.
Cheers.
And also,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say the Martin House artwork is always so awesome.
Super
love,
cool.
Love their
Yeah.
artwork.
Yes.
And guys, this is the first time I've actually tried the Shiner Holiday Cheer.
Really?
Pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I was like, "What's in it?" So I guess it's got peaches and pecans, and it's got a little spice to it. So I like
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
good
If
stuff.
you can
Good
find it
one.
on draft, it's even better. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard
That's
to find, but that's what got me back into it. We were at a restaurant in Roanoke and they had it on draft, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't had that in forever." And then we like immediately went and bought a 6 pack. But yeah, all right. Who's gonna kick off talking about Christmas all over the world?
Well, if you don't mind, like, you know me and my records, like I like to, show them off. I like to share them, but I'm going to share one of my favorites that is probably going to be a guy that most people are not going to be familiar with if you're listening. But it's a gentleman by the name of David Grisman. Is anybody familiar with David Grisman?
nope.
He is a mandolinist and he has put out, I want to say, probably like 20 different albums on his own, but he's probably most notable of playing with Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead and playing alongside with the Grateful Dead occasionally. And he's put out just a bunch of albums, and this is his Christmas album. There's no vocals. It's all, just pure music, but it's always one of my favorite albums to kind of put on and spin just to kind of get me into the holiday spirit. So that's definitely one of my favorites that I play outside of a lot of the more popular ones. So, you want me to keep rolling or you want to dive in? We'll just kind of
I'll dive in. I'll segue from that being an instrumental album. Some of my favorite Christmas music is instrumental, and one of my favorite in that category is Christmas Eve and Other Stories by Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
very
When that came out, it was just like rocking guitars and solos and stuff on these Christmas, these traditional Christmas songs. It was just awesome. So I've loved that record for quite some time since it came out. So that's the first one on my list.
Nice. I will say in a similar vein, that one was Trans-Siberian Orchestra was on mine as well, but sticking with instrumental, Mannheim Steamroller, super cheesy 80s synth,
but good.
but iconic, and I just probably have more nostalgic fondness for it than but I mean, it's probably impressive. It is pretty impressive how the arrangements that he did, but yeah, that one was in heavy rotation when I was growing up.
Well, sticking with just musical, no vocals, I'm sure we all can agree that
Yes.
this is one of the classics. It's one of our favorites. And I just want to call out, I've got to put a little bit of a Texas spin on things. You guys invited me out last year to actually see Midlake down in Fort Worth, where they played this entire album. And I realize that's not Midlake's, specialty or forte all the time, but they blew me away. Like they did an amazing job playing that album last year. It was so good.
Yeah, it was three of the guys from the band. They did a little jazz trio and did songs off that record, and yeah, it was really fun, really good time. They even at one point they got some kids. I think it was all like relatives of members in the bands, and the kids got up there and sang along, on those child
Really cool.
singing portions of that, and it was awesome, man. And then Midlake followed up with a stellar show as well, so it was a good time.
And for
Mm.
those who are listening and not watching, what album did you hold up?
Oh, sorry. It was the Charlie Brown Christmas, which is the Vince Guaraldi trio, which I am holding up again. But yes, I forgot there's people that are not watching and listening. So, but yeah, Charlie Brown's Christmas is always a classic album that's non-vocal. I guess transitioning to vocals, and we were kind of talking about this, Coy, earlier. It seemed like, especially when you focus on Texas, a lot of the Christmas music is country related that you run into. Not always, but when you're focused on Texas musicians, it's mostly country. And typically that's a genre that I stay away from. Um, I typically don't listen to a lot of country music, a lot of the older country music, but not newer. But these guys, the Mavericks, are one of my favorites that I would say that have come out in the past, 30 years or so. That I guess they've been around for a while now. But they've got a Christmas album that I think is just spectacular. I got a hold of this a couple of years ago, and it's one of my favorites as well.
I'll have to check that out. I didn't, was
Yeah.
it Koi? What do you got? Yeah. What else you got?
So, one of my favorite Christmas albums when I was growing up was A Very Special Christmas. The first volume, although I do like many of the subsequent volumes, but I think that also got me to where instead of just being into a whole Christmas album, I am much more into like compilation or just one-offs from people. So I think I resonate more with singles than albums or compilations, but from that album specifically, U2, It's Christmas Baby Please Come Home is one of my favorite versions of a Christmas song. So that one is on my list and can branch into several compilations from there or just single songs versus full albums. But if I do have some other full albums, Frank Sinatra, what is that one called? Jolly Christmas with Frank or something like that. It's the one that has his version of Jingle Bells on is the first track. But that was pretty much, yeah, me when Christmas came around was like bouncing back and forth from like Very Special Christmas to wanting to go like super classic Frank Sinatra Christmas. So those were the albums that like I went completely through the whole CD versus just kind of picking and choosing songs. But I listened to
So
a lot
can I
of
go off-
radio, I think, too.
Can I go off script for just 1 second here?
No.
Not that we have a script, but
What script?
yeah, exactly. So since the two of you are U2 fans, I know this. And Coy, you mentioned a fantastic one, "Baby Please Come Home." That's a classic in my opinion. But I've always associated "Angel of Harlem" with Christmas. It has a Christmas feel, and I think at some
Mhm.
point in the lyrics he mentions it. Does it qualify as a Christmas song?
Yes, if you
Sure.
want to listen to it at Christmas and it gives you Christmas vibes, I think it qualifies. I have one on here that is like, I sometimes really like sad Christmas songs. I have a few on here that I'm like, these are super sad, but I like them. But I'll just talk about that one right now. But Brick by Ben Folds 5.
Mm.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think a lot of people would consider that a Christmas song, A, because it's super depressing, but it just is a throwaway line about how it's the day after Christmas and he has to return some gifts or sell some gifts that he got. But just a super sad song about, a really tough adult decision that they had to make as a couple and then how that just led to the relationship falling apart after that. And yeah, it's like super downer of a song, but for whatever reason, I've decided it's a Christmas song because it takes place at Christmas and, stuff happens all year. It doesn't take a break for Christmas.
No, it gives you that vibe. Like
Yeah.
I would agree. Like I wouldn't put it on my Christmas playlist.
Great
But-
song though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great,
great
song.
song.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, I guess one of the ones that, outside of ones that we've already mentioned, another one that I can just listen to the whole thing, and I did it today, and it's just every song is good, and that's the Beach Boys Christmas album.
Yes.
To me,
Yep.
that's at the top of the mountain of all Christmas albums for me, just because it's got all the classics on there that they sing are great versions. Some all the originals that are on there are good as well. I mean, Little Saint Nick. I mean, you can't that song's so good.
Little Saint Nick alone is, qualifies it as an iconic album, but yeah, the whole
Yeah.
thing is good. I agree. That's another one you can listen to
Love it.
and not get sick of anything on it.
So I got to call out a couple albums for the better half of John. And this is for Sarah, but they are two of my favorites as well. I enjoy them quite a bit. But the Carpenters, Christmas, I'm sure we all kind of grew up around the same time frame. That's a classic. And then living in the Southeast in Georgia and Alabama, there is nothing like hearing Christmas in Dixie by Alabama. Like it is a fantastic song, but this entire Christmas album from Alabama is just stellar. There's some really great originals on here as well as some classic songs.
I mean, the red with the gold embossed lettering,
It's like a present.
it screams Christmas. Well, not screams, but like 4 or 5-part harmony.
Yeah.
Gosh,
The,
man, Alabama is greatness. They're
Yeah.
they're
they're
truly
classic.
truly
So-
great.
No.
And one last one for you guys. If you're looking for something new and crazy that's out there that you might not have ever heard of, but Cheap Trick Christmas is actually pretty damn good. I got this as a present, I think either last year or the year before, and I was pretty impressed. I was like, they do a good job of Christmas songs.
Does that
Another
have
one.
the "I want you to want me, but it's I want you for Christmas" instead?
I
They just,
believe
like,
that is
changed-
on here.
Changed a couple of words and made it a Christmas song?
I wish I wish I was Christmas today, maybe.
Nah. I thought it was I want you for Christmas, but could be wrong.
It could be an original recording that you could do.
No, it exists already, John.
Oh, it does. Okay.
I'm not making it up. It's just
Okay.
I don't know if it's on that album or not.
No, it's actually a good album though. I really enjoyed it.
It was on one of the volumes of Very Special Christmas is the only reason I know about that one.
Mm.
But speaking of super collaborations, Band-Aids, Do They Know It's Christmas is one of the most iconic Christmas songs to me, and just, listening and to tie it back to U2, because I try to do that as much as possible also. But when Bono comes in with his line, it's just like, yeah, it's just such a great song, such a great moment. And like, I feel like everyone can remember, in the 80s, that all those artists coming together and recording that for Live Aid or Band Aid.
I got a couple more. She and Him. Are y'all familiar with She and Him?
Yes.
Their Christmas
great
album.
Christmas album.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Zoe Deschanel and M. Ward.
Yep.
Yeah, they do some of the classics. They do some originals as well. And I've loved her voice, for a long, long time. And her doing Christmas songs is just, to me, it's just chef's kiss. So definitely want to check out if you haven't. And then last one on my list is Sufjan Stevens, Songs for Christmas. It's an epic 5-disc album. I won't say I love every song on there, but there is probably a dozen songs on there that I think are just fantastic. And the best one is, in my opinion, O Come, O Come Emmanuel. It's my favorite version of that song ever done. But there's some other good ones on there as well. So if you aren't familiar with that one, it's worth checking out.
Nice.
So it's 5 albums of Christmas,
It's 5 discs. Yeah.
5 discs. Wow.
5 sides.
Oh wow, that's huge. He's one of the guys that's always kind of been on my periphery that people have said you got to listen to him. I think Illinois is one of the
Yeah. It's a great album.
Yeah, classic albums that people are always like you got to listen to. But I haven't explored his material, so I'll definitely check that one out, Graham.
Yeah.
I've got a few more singles, but I can wrap it up with a full album recommendation. But just to circle back on the Christmas songs that are maybe not like the most uplifting, or maybe a little bit sad and depressing. I don't know why. I just think it's probably that whole juxtaposition, the same reason I like peppy, upbeat songs, but the lyrics are like kind of sad and messed up and angsty. But for me, the Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York is
Oh yes,
great Christmas song, questionable, Christmas relevance. But other than that, like what I'm saying is like, life doesn't take a break on Christmas. Like sometimes it just, you're in the drunk tank and the NYPD choir band is singing. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved that song, but I think last year it really, after Shane passed away from the Pogues, and I like, he passed away on the November 30th. I watched his wake. They broadcasted it, like streamed it on YouTube, and I watched his wake and just saw everyone just singing and like dancing in the aisles. And I'm like, to have a funeral like that is says a lot of something about what he did, what he meant to a lot of people. But he was also born on Christmas, so he's got that Christmas tie himself. But that's just a great song. I love that song. I love how it starts out slow and piano and then gets all Irish and rowdy. It's just a great song. And then another one is really cheesy, but I also like it. It is Same Old Lang Syne by Dan Fogelberg. It's just this whole like running into an ex, and I thought during the holidays, I don't know why I like it. It's really cheesy, but there's the Backstreet Boys covered it, and that's the absolute unlistenable. You want it to go, like, if you want to see how bad it could go, how cheesy it could go, that's the version to listen to. But for some reason, even though it's super cheesy and like with the melody and the falsetto and the sax solo at the end, it just works. And probably because it's from that 70s kind of James Taylor era yacht rock, thing. But just, I don't know why, but it tells a story and it just draws me in. It's not like necessarily a super happy story, but it's just a good story. So I'll end it with a happier note. As far as a full album that you can put on and just super fun is Bare Naked for the Holidays by Bare Naked Ladies. And the track on there that I'll specifically call out is their song with Sarah McLachlan. It is God Rest You Merry Gentlemen medley with We Three Kings, and it's very jazzy, very cool. If you've never heard that song, check it out, but also that whole album. That they actually came out with Christmas songs piecemeal and then finally had enough to make a whole album, and they added some more. So, but that whole album is really good. But
Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure. I'm not a huge Bare Naked Ladies fan, but I love Sarah McLachlan, and I don't know that song, so
yeah,
I'll
it's
definitely
really good.
check that out.
Canada coming together for some great Christmas songs.
I did have one more so I'll just end, my list with this one, but it's, I don't want to say it's great or anything like that, but it's, for me, the past 10 years or so of Christmas, I just like to put this on my list and play it in the car or whatever. And that's Christmas with Weezer. It's just a lot of fun. They do a bunch of just traditional songs and hymns, and it sounds just like you would think it would sound like. It sounds like just Weezer doing Christmas songs, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's like that cover album that they came out with that you're just like, oh man, these are all great covers. It's like, it sounds like the song, but also Weezer. And then they came out with that Christmas one. I was like, oh, they did it for Christmas too. Of course, because of course they did. Now that's a more recent favorite of mine as well. And then you reminded me, there's a couple more I have to mention. Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds' Christmas song is a great, just,
Yeah.
two guitars and Dave singing, and just a really cool version of the Christmas story.
That whole album is.
Yes, the whole album.
I don't know.
The whole album's not Christmas, but the whole album is great.
Yeah, I didn't even know who Tim Reynolds was till that album came out. But
Yeah, same.
those two together, just
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
So good. And then the band's Christmas Must Be Tonight. It's been covered a bunch of times too, but the original that they did is a pretty great track. If you are into the band, I recommend that song as well. And I have a whole list. I could go on and on. Guster has a great Christmas track called Mamacita Donde Está Santa Claus. I recommend that one as well. But yeah, I'll just have to stop because there's simply too many to name.
Yeah.
We'll have a playlist. We'll just put together a playlist. I'll tell you, you guys just shared a couple that I'd never heard of. Like, I've never listened. I've never heard the Weezer. I've never heard the Bare Naked Ladies. Fans of both of those bands.
Yeah.
And I'm under the table punching myself that I didn't mention the Pogues, because that is an absolute favorite of mine. Love that song, even though it's not, I guess, really technically a Christmas song. It's always associated with Christmas, I think. And I've got one last one that I would have to put on. You see the Pearl Jam in the back, because I'm a massive Pearl Jam fan, but they actually do have a couple of songs that could be considered Christmas songs. And there's one called Let Me Sleep that, if you haven't heard it, it's got a very strong Christmas vibe to it. So it would definitely classify that one as a Christmas song. It's a very slow song, but that would be on my playlist of songs as well, along with Fairy Tale of New York. It's still,
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Graham, would you consider 12/23/95 by Jimmy Eat World a Christmas song?
Yeah.
I do. I was just curious about how other Jimmy Eat World fans viewed that.
I would.
Well, Brick is a Christmas song. Anything can be a Christmas.
I mean, yeah.
No, but yeah, I would say for sure that is
Christmas adjacent.
Yeah.
We could do a whole episode on Christmas adjacent.
Well, let's not. No, this has been fun. This has been fun for sure. What I want to know is, what are y'all's favorite Christmas songs? Y'all out there who are listening, we want y'all to chime in and let us know, what we left off the list and what are your favorites so that we can discover new things and new songs and new albums that might be on your Christmas playlist. So comment and respond, reply, whatever it is that you need to do. And kick it to Koya. He's going to tell us what's in store for our next episode 5.
Yeah. So our next episode, we are going to flip it a little bit. We told you in our first episode the origin stories of our musical journeys. And so we're going to, we try to talk about music, have beer, talk about beer a little bit. We're going to flip it and talk about beer and kind of what got us into beer, what do we like about it, why do we still drink it, and then we'll talk a little bit about music while we talk about beer. But we're just going to kind of flip the script a little bit for that episode and go more beer forward than we have been. But it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Be different and good. Looking forward to it as well. Now we're at the time of the show where it's our turn. I guess Coy and I's turn. I don't know how it turned into Coy and I giving John assignments and John giving Coy and I assignments, but somehow that's how it's developed.
We're going to mix it up.
Well, I don't know. We'll stick with it. Maybe we'll switch it up at some point and someone will just have their own, thing for whoever. But anyhow, we want John, who John's familiar with the band, has heard of them, has maybe heard, a song of theirs here and there, but hasn't really dug into their catalog. And that is the Dallas band Old 97s.
Mhm.
So we want John to kind of dig into that and get his thoughts on their catalog and their sound. Because Coy and I have been fans for a while and I've always enjoyed, their music, and particularly their live shows are always fantastic and a lot of fun. They're very high energy, and you can tell they're just having fun up there, doing their thing. Coy, I know you're probably even a bigger fan than me, so I'll let you kind of touch on Old 97s a little bit.
Yeah, so I definitely want John to check them out more than he has and just kind of get to know them better, let us know what he thinks about them, because I'd love for us to go check out a show because they play locally pretty often. And that, like Graham is saying, is, for me, I liked their music, but when I saw them live, I was like, oh, okay, I'm like a super fan. Like it was, it's awesome. And if you need to stay in the Christmas vein, they put out a Christmas album in 2018. I just actually found out and didn't have a chance to listen to it to know if I should put it on these lists or not. But from what I'm sure it's actually really good. I'm going to be checking that out. But also, if you like Marvel, the MCU, they are in the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special in heavy alien makeup. So you wouldn't know it's them unless you knew it was them. But they do a Christmas song in that holiday special too. And then at the end, they do another Christmas song with Kevin Bacon.
Wow.
So check out the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special too, if you want to get more.
Question, because I love this assignment, because they're one of those bands that I've heard of, but never really listened to their music. I remember that one of their albums has a football player on the front of it.
Yeah.
So is that a good place to start, or is there another one that I should start with?
Yeah, where should you start?
Oh man, that's a good question. I don't think that's a bad one to start with. And isn't that a Roger Staubach reference? I think that one's called, I think it's called 12 and his number.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a Dallas Cowboys Roger Staubach reference, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm not as maybe familiar with that one as some of their other ones, but I don't know. For me, it's hard not to start at the beginning. And
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
That's so.
Too Far to Care.
Start with Too Far to Care if you want to start with a whole album.
Yep.
But they have, there's multiple.
Throw it on my playlist.
Good ones from there. Oh, and if you want to watch The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn, they are also a plot.
I was going to say
plot device of that, because the director was a really big fan of theirs. Or no, Vince Vaughn.
Yeah,
Vince Vaughn was a big fan of theirs, and so they had, I think, met and become friends. And it's kind of a cool part of the movie where Like they go to a Old 97's concert.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Um,
So
Maybe
it's
I'll check that out. Yeah.
it's important to the plot of the movie. It's not just they're at an Old 97's concert. It's actually like, wow, this took place at this part of the movie took place in Old 97's. Otherwise, I don't really recommend that movie, but
Always
I
torturing me
watched
with
it, I
rom
was like,
coms.
oh, this is a cool thing that's happening in this movie that I'm barely paying attention to. No offense to people who worked hard on that movie.
Yeah, they actually funny little side. The band posted the other day on their Facebook a picture of them with Jennifer Aniston, but it was the worst quality photo I've ever seen, maybe in my life. It was so fuzzy, like it didn't look like Jennifer Aniston at all. And everybody was commenting, including myself. I was like, is that really Jennifer Aniston?
In fairness, that's their
Believable,
Facebook page, but
obviously,
I don't think they
because
posted that
they did
picture.
do the movie with her, and it is her. But
Yeah.
the picture's so bad you can't tell if it's even actually her. It distorts her face in such a way it doesn't look like her. So anyway, just thought that was
And do you think the band posted that, Graham?
well.
I know it's their Facebook
someone
page.
running their social
Yes.
media posted it. Yeah, the band's Facebook page, not the band themselves. Probably.
It did have the feeling someone found a really grainy photograph and was like, oh, this is cool.
Let's throw it out.
That's-
Yeah, but it was funny.
I thought it was her stunt double personally, but
That's what I said. Well, that's gonna do it for our Christmas special episode 4. If you would, we would be grateful if you would subscribe, like, hit the bell, whatever the things you do on whatever platform you're using, just to stay in contact and in touch with us and know what's going on. And we appreciate anyone who is listening and who does listen in the future. We thank you.
Let us know what you want to hear about.
Yeah.
We're happy to listen to your subjects.
So until
Jennifer
next
Aniston
time.
talk.
Until next time, we wish you a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. We hope it's a good holiday season for you.
Cheers.
See you next time. Cheers.